Welcome back to the special edition of Hannity. Are Democrats failing Israel and Jews in America? Well, today we received the sad news that 73-year-old Gadi Hugai became the first American to die in Hamas captivity. His wife is still being held as a hostage there. And earlier today, the UN Security Council voted to increase aid to Gaza, demanding a humanitarian pause. The U.S. abstained from voting. Meanwhile, so-called pro-Palestine protests continue to arise across the country, including this one in Detroit during a local Michigan Democrats' Christmas party. This brawl sent at least one attendee to the hospital, leaving others injured. And get this, according to a new report, former President Obama has quietly lobbied in support of Harvard President Claudine Gay, following backlash over her controversial testimony on anti-Semitism. So this is a lot to unpack here. Here with reaction, New York Post columnist and host of the Karol Markowicz Show, Karol Markowicz, and Fox News contributor Deroy Murdock. Karol, let me ask you first, immediately out of this Israel situation, you know, we run the risk of becoming inured to news about Americans in peril, especially after Afghanistan. There was outrage, understandably, over our 13 troops being murdered in that environment. But in all of this discussion, we believe this is the first American to die in captivity, but we had like 30 Americans killed in the Hamas attack itself. How do you view this unfolding now as more and more details come out and we have this horrible news?
It's so pathetic. The White House released a statement of condolences, but where is the outrage that an American, Gadi Hugai, has been killed? Where is the American president to at least have some harsh words for the killers? We're seen as weak on the world stage because of Joe Biden. Americans being murdered abroad cannot go without mention. A lot of people, like to misunderstand when a Jewish American like me says that there needs to be a reaction. I want to be clear, I do not want American boots on the ground, but how about some harsh language? How about a hard look? Anything.
Yeah, see, that's a great point. I mean, this transcends whether you're Jewish or not. In fact, though, all of us should be fine to identify as Jewish, because this is about a minority that people think will be abandoned, as it has been in the past. And so this is what's fascinating. Deroy, we've got, again, Americans, over a dozen now, 30, who knows how many really have been killed that we don't know and will be. And yet it's like the White House shrugs. We've got ships being attacked through the Iranian proxy group Houthi. They put out a video earlier threatening America. I mean, where does this go? I mean, how much worse can this get?
It could get a lot worse, I'm afraid. Look, people, first of all, let me express my condolences to the family of Gadi Hugai. I'm sure this is very painful for them, and nobody involved in this deserved to have what's happened take place. But this could come here. Hamas is not just a problem for Israel, as you said, is a problem for Americans. 30 who were killed there, about 14 who were held hostage. Some are still held hostage. The Germans, Dutch, and I believe the Danes just a couple weeks ago broke up a Hamas plot to engage in terrorism in Europe. Right. There are people crossing the border from all over the place. God forbid that Hamas decides, hey, let's go put some pressure on the Americans on American soil. So this is not just an Israeli problem. This has already become an American problem as of October 7th, and it could become one if, God forbid, Hamas decides to come and spread their terrorism into this country.
Yeah, and considering the open border, years ago, the State Department told us about how Hezbollah and Hamas were running some of the drug cartel rings from South and Central America up into this country, for the money. Right. I mean, people have got to be ready for horrible news, and we've got to be prepared for it. But I do want to move on to the nature of politics here now that are happening, Karol, regarding Obama and Claudine Gay and Harvard. Now, Obama is a very influential man, obviously. She has been, I would argue, a failure. It is, as a feminist, it was wonderful to see 3 women heading universities speaking to Congress. And then they all failed, right? They all kind of, jumped in with the establishment. And for women who understand bias and unfairness and problems getting good jobs and being treated equally, we should be on the side of everyone who has been, attacked or faces hate crimes or distinctive bias. Why is Obama, spending some of his cachet for her?
Well, Obama lobbying for her isn't a surprise. I mean, Claudine Gay is on the team. Woke politics is a team sport, and she's on it. I'm honestly glad that so many of my Jewish liberal friends have been realizing that their application for the team has been denied. Please try again next year. Look, she's going to be pushed out for her plagiarism, and that's fair. I'd be fired for far less if I did even close to what she did. But I hope she's remembered as the woman who argued that calling for Jewish genocide on campus had to be put in the proper context. Her inhumanity towards Jews should be her legacy. I know it's going to be the plagiarism that actually forces her out, but I want it to be that.
Yeah, that's a very good point, Deroy. I'm going to give you the last word here because this is not just about that woman or the situation with Harvard. This is a systemic problem, especially with the rise of anti-Semitism.
It really is. I mean, look, if the question had been, does it violate the speech code or the regulations, if you will, at Harvard, for somebody to say, hey, let's have genocide against blacks and wipe all the blacks out, she would have said, yes, that's awful. We wouldn't permit that. But the question is, well, what about genocide against the Jews? Well, it depends. Put it in context. Who really knows? Unbelievable. I mean, that should have been a very easy question for her and the other college presidents to answer. The fact that they botched that goes to show how deep anti-Semitism has crept into the left. And this is one of the reasons I think she ought to be booted, as well as 40 different examples of plagiarism. Any Harvard freshman knows you don't do that. She did it 40 times. She ought to be booted.
Yeah, talk about also a double standard with administration versus students and who gets booted and who doesn't. But also the commitment, maybe it's Obama's commitment to DEI, that this is a symbol of the failure of that theory. And perhaps they just don't want the American people to see that. Karol, Deroy, thank you very much.
Hey, Sean Hannity here. Hey, click here to subscribe to Fox News YouTube page and catch our hottest interviews and most compelling analysis. You will not get it anywhere else.